Greetings, my loyal subjects. You know what pony seriously confuses me? Fluttershy, and it all started with dramatic pause. The stare. Dun dun dun. Yes, the stare. This ability of hers is utterly baffling to me, but what gets me even more is how she uses it. Let's list here all the times she has used it, shall we? Which is a total of 6 or 7 times. First off, there was the episode where the stare was first introduced in Season 1, the Stairmaster, if you didn't remember or didn't care, where she used it on the hens in her chicken coop and on the vicious cockatrice, but not on the furry demon known as Opalescence or the disruptive CMC. Note, she also happened to claim that it was not something she controlled, at least at that time. Next, at the end of putting your hoof down, Fluttershy seems to use the stare on Angel Bunny to get him to eat his salad without complaint, which if she had done in the first place, there probably wouldn't have been an episode at all. Then, near the beginning of Keep Calm and Flutter On, Fluttershy used the stare as a straight-up threat against Discord, who totally psyched her out and laughed in her face when she actually tried it. Finally, in the episode Bats, the vampire fruit bats were subjected to her stare along with a whopping magical overdose by Twilight Flarple here, which ended up turning Fluttershy into a bat pony, who was then tricked into staring at herself. That moment was particularly confusing, so I'll cover it later. You could argue that Fluttershy was using her stare on the dragon in the Season 1 episode Dragonshy, but her stare there wasn't as accented or executed as it normally is when she uses it, and she seemed more in outraged maternal mode rather than, well... As I'm not sure either way, I'm just not going to count it. So, from these occurrences, we can infer with utmost certainty that A. The stare is an aggressive influence. B. After the events of the Stairmaster, Fluttershy has seemed to gain control of this ability. C. From what we see, Fluttershy doesn't normally use the stare on other ponies except herself that one time, and that was on accident, kinda. D. The stare does not work on Discord.
You're hilarious!
And Discord is a jerk.
Go on, say it.
All right. Friendship is magic.
Was a jerk?
I imagine they'll be your last decent meal for quite some time.
Still a jerk. You know what? We'll save that for another day. Now, what can we begin to theorize? Well, I've heard the odd theory that Fluttershy's stare is actually a type of mind control, akin to the kind of manipulation Discord had invoked in Return of Harmony. But while Discord's method was more deceptive and thought out, Fluttershy seems upfront and threatening. This could explain why Fluttershy was the only one of our protagonists, despite being the most visibly shaken, to be able to resist Discord's influence, if only the indirect type. And why Discord would be immune to her stare, since he's obviously a more powerful and experienced being. Honestly, I don't think I agree with this theory, since this kind of behavior does not fit along with her character, though it would answer some questions. Maybe you could argue that Fluttershy isn't really aware that what she's doing is wrong, and thinks of it as a way to get her animal friends to listen to her after "Pretty please" doesn't work. But then that raises the question, why doesn't she use it on other ponies? Surely it would make life easier. After the Stairmaster, she seems to have some semblance of control. It could even be useful in gaining other ponies' attention and compliance in a crisis. She has to know something must be wrong if she doesn't feel comfortable using it on ponies when she is perfectly willing to use it on her critters when push comes to shove. Heck, hasn't someone made the argument by now that Fluttershy seems to care more about animals than about other ponies?
A baby dragon! Oh, I've never seen a baby dragon before.
Never mind. DXS is on that. Maybe you could chalk it up to her timid personality somehow, or a secret sadistic side, but I'm just not buying it. Now, what do I think? The answer is surprisingly simple. Fluttershy's stare is a concentration of her suppressed anger. Done. Cue credits.
My Little Pony.
What? You want me to explain this? Ugh, fine. Okay. So let's think back to putting your hoof down. Fluttershy was near utterly malicious in that episode, and understandably so. She'd been taken advantage of, scammed, and called a doormat by her own friends. How much you want to bet that happens on a daily basis? And when she finally builds some self-esteem and gets advice that tells her open acts of aggression are A-okay, she completely dominates anyone who gets in her way or says something she doesn't want to hear. But then she finally realizes, oh my god, I'm hurting ponies, then she completely shuts down. Now just think, all those instances of anger, all that balled up into one little pony. How does she cope? And how does she hold it all in? Or does she? Think of what she values most, and it being threatened by something or someone. You know, they say that those who have the most love also have the hottest rage. There is no way she would keep it inside when her chickens tried to wander out near the much-feared Everfree Forest in the dark of the night, when the vicious cockatrice had petrified her own friend and threatened 3 innocent young fillies, or when the embodiment of chaos himself threatened to wreak havoc on her friendships, and so she let it out in the most concentrated, raw form. No words, no growls, not even a blink. That is Fluttershy's stare. Now, there's that question again. Why hasn't she used her stare on other ponies? And what was the deal with bats? As for the latter, Fluttershy's mental state seemed utterly compromised due to her transformation, so there was nothing to rein in her aggressive leer. She was next to animalistic here, and when an animal feels threatened, its first instinct is to intimidate, and what better tool did she have at her disposal? As to the former, well, who's to say she hasn't or won't? With Fluttershy's nature, she certainly wouldn't go flashing it around for little things, but if some poor, dumb pony decided throwing rocks at puppies was fun, who do you think that stare would be aimed at next? But hey, that's just a theory. A pony theory. Thanks for watching.